Hello everyone, my name is James Victor, author of Pearl of the Orient, and today I just wanted to share my experience in killing my novel's darlings, as the writing community calls it. My novel last time was at around 180,000 words, and after a few weeks of killing some darlings, I have now get it down below 160,000 words. But I still have half of the novel to go through, and I still need to get it down below 150,000 words, which is still a lot of words for a debut novel, but I'm crossing my fingers that agents will still accept it. The book is about Datu Lapu-Lapu's eventual encounter with Ferdinand Magellan. Half of the book is about Magellan's expedition, and the other half is about the politics surrounding the islands where Datu Lapu-Lapu lives. And so, of course, a big issue with that is how long the expedition actually was. And there's also this issue that we're talking about real people and real events. But of course, as an author who's partly writing a fiction, I could wield some of my artistic license. But still, I feel like I shouldn't abuse that. But if I had to add everything, the book would just go on and on and on, and no agent would possibly accept such a long debut novel. So I have to cut and kill a lot of darlings. And so for anyone who's familiar with Magellan's expedition, I had to cut out the Patagonian giants in South America, the Chamorro people in the Islas de Ladrones, or the Islands of the Thieves, in Guam, and a lot of things that happened after the Battle of Mactan, when the Armada went to Mindanao, to Palawan, to Brunei, and all the places they went before they ended up in the Spice Islands, and also after that. But of course, I have to remember that my main focus is Lapu-Lapu, Magellan, and the Philippines. So even if I remove those scenes, as long as the main beats of the story, of the expedition, are still there, I think the whole story would still make sense. But of course, I want to clarify that I'm not necessarily erasing these real people from the real history. I'm just simply omitting them to bring focus to the part of the story that I want to tell. So for people who are familiar with the expedition, expect to read about the Armada's passage through the Strait of Magellan, about the mutiny, about what happened to all 5 ships of the Armada, about the Armada's entrance to the Pacific Ocean, about the arrival on the Philippines, about the Battle of Mactan, and about their arrival to the Spice Islands, which is their main goal in the first place. I of course have to add the main people involved in the expedition. So of course there's Ferdinand Magellan, there's Francisco Serrao, there's Juan Cartagena, Duarte Barbosa, and so on and so forth. Again, of course, I'm not necessarily erasing some of the people that might have not been added into the story, but I'm simply omitting them to shorten the novel. And same thing with the part about the Philippines. I also have to add a lot of characters involved in the story. So of course there's Datu Lapu-Lapu, there's Raha Umabon, there's Dayang Dayang Humamay, Raha Colombo, Raha Awi, and so on and so forth. I also have to have at least one character from each of the casts in the caste system of pre-colonial Visayas. So I have to have at least one Datu, one Raha, one Timawa, one Uripon. I also have to have a Mabaylan. And since Pearl of the Orient is not just about Filipino history, but also about Filipino mythology, about the rivalry between Aswangs and Encantos, I have to have at least one from both. And I have to have at least one from each of the famous Filipino mythological creatures. So I have to have at least one Manananggal, one Tikbalang, one Kapre, one Nuno sa Punso, and so on and so forth. And since Pearl of the Orient is set in pre-colonial Visayas, for anyone who's familiar with that history and setting, I of course felt that I should add at least a little bit about their Bulawan jewelries, their golden teeth, their tattoos, their balangays and karakoas, their betel nuts, their religion, wedding ceremonies, funeral rites, superstitions, and so on and so forth. Because I have to immerse the readers to that history and setting, and I have to add the finer details in order to achieve that. And of course, as a writer, I love to play around with my prose. I didn't want it to be too bare bones. I also wanted to be poetic. I said before that I wanted to pick out a lot of lines from Filipino folklore epics, Filipino proverbs, historical sayings, and from many other sources. But I had to remember not to be too verbose and purple. I had to lean in more to being bare bones if I really wanted to be seen by agents and get traditionally published someday. But I tried my best not to erase too much of my poetic writing, because I have to remember that in some way, this is not really just my writing, because I also am referencing, even just a little bit, the oral traditions of my country's ancestors. In the end, I did have to cut out a lot of stuff to bring the word count down, but without ever losing my personal goal for what I wanted my prose to be like. But even after all of that, just below 150,000 words is still too long. Some say it should be at most around 120,000 words. And I've read online a lot about publishers being too wary of taking on debut novels that long these days. But since it's epic fantasy, I may still have some chance, but it's definitely harder. So I hope that when the time comes to send out queries, that they would still consider my manuscript, because I am running out of ideas on which darlings to kill. So that's all I have for today. Thank you very much for following my writing journey, and good luck to me in getting this word count down. And bye-bye.